Well, I was going to say cheers, but morning coffee. Welcome to our 48th film in this little series, Pattern of the Month. Closing in on 50, and we actually decided to keep going since there are so many new things coming. And there's always new flies to try, and some of them work, and then we'll share them with you. Last week we did a modern flash wing fly that, you know, I get some comments it looks like a lure, and in a way it does. Big, flashy for early season or for conditions when you need something like that. Today I have more things here than normal, and today we're gonna actually do one of my old favorite patterns that I think I tied it first time back in the 70s. I caught my first fish on it also 70s, I think, and during 80s and guiding years and 90s I caught a lot of fish on different versions. So 48th pattern of the month is going to be the Akroyd, and I searched my old Wetly boxes, actually engraved with my name, and it was kind of fancy back then. I didn't find one, and I think they are in another box with old flies, but I just wanted to show you how I fished them back in the days, and it was mostly tied on hooks, doubles or trebles without a wing, singles, classic way with the feather wing. Today I'm gonna do it differently, but you know, I wanted to start. It's a long time ago I made this book, and we actually have a few of the limited edition books that we kept for the future, and maybe the future is now. Anyone interested, yes, please drop me a mail and we'll see what we can do. Okay, so Akroyd. I'll give you a little of the info from the book. It comes from, it originates from a man called Charles Akroyd, and the date is 1878, so it's an old fly. I'm going to read you a few lines here. It says, Mr. Charles Akroyd from Craggy, Brora in Sutherland was the originator of this D-striped wing fly, the Akroyd, most famous of his flies today. Mr. Akroyd sometimes dresses Akroyds without teal for the trout or front hackle, using instead a heron's hackle tied in as a front hackle. That's like how I fished a lot of my flies, actually, especially small sizes. Mr. Akroyd has an elegant finesse on his Akroyds, which he alone describes. It's in the small ostrich hull butt between the two body halves. I'm not gonna tie that today. It's more a classic thing, and to me it gets a bit clumsy. It says he was otherwise more fond of a more simple fly, and gave the Akroyd its nickname, the poor man's Jock Scott. It's a little bit of that from the book, and what we're gonna do today is similar in some ways and totally different in other ways. We have the classic D-strip wing flies, and like the one I have framed on the wall over here, and the classic fly was two versions, the white wing one, which I personally think is the most beautiful one, and the one with the cinnamon brown turkey tail split D-strip wing. Okay, but today we're gonna tie it on a tube, and I'm gonna tie it quite small for being a tube here. I'm not gonna tie down to the sizes that I fish them in. I'm gonna do maybe a 6-8 centimeter fly or so, otherwise it's harder for you to see what we do here. Okay, so let's start tying. It's always good to have a bit of warm coffee on the table here. So and or maybe I should say, I mean, one of our new merch shirts all came in yesterday, and the warehouse is just full of, I think it's 5 or 6 of them, and we with the important message, and you know, please show that you care and show that you stand behind us in the fight for free rivers and wild fish. Otherwise we don't have anything. Okay, I'm gonna tie on today I'm gonna tie on extra small fluorescent orange one and a black medium. And since this is a one that's coming from the rests we have when we pack, it was not sharp one end, and I want to have it sharp when I cut it. So I'll use my tube cutter, and we are going to, I'll do a 2 centimeter. I tie them down to 1.5 or even 1 centimeter. And a 1 centimeter tube doesn't mean the fly is 1 centimeter. This fly will be on 1 centimeter, probably about 3 or so. And that's the reason is that we need and we want to have the tube, the hook, to be in the center of this fly. I'm gonna tie it today on 12-0, our own thread, of course, and I use a black one. Cut the little edge there and put the thread on. Make the medium hold the extra small, little bit of extra thread, and I back down. And we need a mirage. Okay, so I'll take a mirage, and I'll do like I do most of the time using mirage. I tie it in and back it down and turn it. That way I'm not getting any thread under the mirage. It doesn't matter much when I'm on a black tube with a black tying thread, but it becomes a little more even. Cut it off, not too close. Better to keep a little edge there. Then we do 2 tails. I will do yellow crafts fur, and this is like, instead of the golden pheasant crest, and not too long. Taper it down. Cutting it sideways, I can do that also after I tie it in. Not too much. Overall, I want this fly to be quite sparse, and I'm going to use material that also give us a sparsely dressed fly. And it's quite the opposite from the originals. They were tied thin with the long hackle to make a big fly that could cut the surface and fish deeper. Remember the old days back in 1870, what was it, 1878, 6? There were only silk lines, or horsehair lines. There were no sink grades. It was the fly that was catching depth. Quite different than what we do today. Okay, and I'll add a little bit of orange, and instead of using, this is instead of the Indian crow feather, instead of using the red here, I add a little fluorescent to it with a little bit of orange and very sparse right on top. Press it down a bit and work the thread back and cut it off. Since I'm gonna have dubbing here, it's not that necessary that I cut this here close or be very even. It's better that I cut it at an angle like this, so I can tie it in and it will disappear better. Okay, I'm gonna use a little butt. Ostrich is what's normally used here. I will use a little dubbing. Even the oldest flies had something they called Berlin wool, which is wool yarn actually with a certain quality. Got some in the desk over there I could have shown you, but so I create a little butt like this. If I think it's a little heavy, I can always brush and trim that down afterwards, so I don't get a too fat fly. Okay, braid, and we're gonna keep the colors here. Oh, sorry, yeah, we're gonna keep the colors. I'm gonna start with what is going to be the ribbing, and I tie this in. I will have another braid later on, but now I will use our SSS dubbing to do the second half. And in a way this is quite different from most of the flies I tie, and most of all flies actually, because it's got the dubbing in the back. And I think maybe this is for helping out to creating a very thin fly that will cut the surface, so the front on the original fly is floss silk. I could say that I never use silk today on my fishing flies. Silk, when it comes to a black one, it doesn't matter much, but silk changes color when it gets wet. I prefer to have a color that will stay even when the fly gets wet. Okay, about half the length, and you can see I just take a little bit at a time, and to me it doesn't really matter if some of the black is seen through the orange. It actually makes it a little better, I think. Original fly, a yellow, warm yellow, orange. Coxhackle, I'm gonna use a different one just to take the colors down a little bit. I'm gonna use a yellow badger, which has the black center. I'm picking a feather that's not too big, and strip it one end, tie it in underneath, and it's not that important to tie it in underneath on a bulky tube fly, but I still keep it like that. Then I take this, and I always start with one turn here, and on a classic fly there's 5 turns of hackle. When it comes to half, you can't do 2.5, then it's gonna look ugly. I always do 3, so I'm starting here, and then I wind this 3 turns over the body. Pick up the ribbing, Take this, make sure you pull it as hard as you dare. Spin down the ribbing and wind it cross the other way, so every turn crosses over the feather. That way, if the feather breaks, and I'll tell you, I'm bragging about our braid, how strong it is. It's 1,000,000 times stronger than that feather. And I wind out the thread a bit so I can have this under the body. Cut this off. Not too many fibers. Looks so it's even. I think it looks okay. And I back down the thread. This is where Mr. Akroyd had his little butt. But since it's gonna be black in the front, I don't do that. Tying in the ribbing again, of course you can keep the ribbing there and not cut it off. In a way it's it's easier to just wind it front, tie it in, cut it off and wind it in again. You don't have to back down and double. Okay, so I told you, on the original fly there was a black silk body. I do a black hollow braid. And this gives a little more shine to it. It makes it a lot stronger. And the color will stay, the shine will stay. And since I'm doing a fairly sparsely dressed fly here, I want this to be quite shiny. I want a translucent fly with a lot of, not a lot of sparkle. Sparkle might be the wrong word here, but I want it to be shiny and reflects light in a good way. Okay, heron. This is like the hell feather to use. I have them selected in sizes here. Actually, these feathers are superb, and these are what we are sourcing for the pattern of the month packs. They are the best ever, so I use them myself. Okay, so I pick one with fibers that are long enough to create a nice long Spey hackle. In a way it's wrong to call it Spey hackles. Tie it in underneath. I wanted to tie it in like this, not like that, okay? Because Spey is one river, Dee is another river, and the fly tradition is totally different. So I tie this in the front, and I tie it in actually a different way than I do with most feathers that I tie in, and I wind them on with the tip first. Then I take this and I double it, and you can see I saved a part here with quite short fibers, and I want a little bit of the black over or in the front to create a little bit of volume, and then I do this 3 turns. Can be a bit tricky since the fibers, it's easy to hold the fibers here. I always do this with my fingers and not with the hackle plier. Then I trim this down and I again, crossover. The good thing with doing the body hackle like this is that you can always also press down some of the fibers on the above and press them down on the sides, because then you get a little more of the fibers to work on the side of the wing and not mix in the wing. And I'm very careful when I cut this up. You can see there's a little tip here. It's not much, but I need to cut that away. Okay, is it even? I think it's even. Got some nice feathers here. Can put my finger now on the top like this and just divide this. Get as many as the fibers as possible down on the side. Like that. Okay. So I'm gonna do this in a little different way now. The classic fly, you put on the front hackle and you put on the wings and 2 jungle cocks and it's done. I'm gonna do this where I put the front hackle in front of the wing, very sparse. And of course what you can do now, you can take, I got a nice piece of soft hair here. You can take this and you do it very sparsely and divide it with a bit of angel hair. But we have, as you probably seen, started also with natural materials, and there are so many good materials, but it's so hard to source them. And what we've been able to source, it's what's called nutria. We call it nutria shrimp because I'll show you, these fibers here are perfect for all sorts of shrimp flies. But also, I have a pack here actually, here's the Patagorba one. But also when you want a sparsely dressed fly, it's superb to use this. So I thought I had a smaller piece here somewhere. See how it can be messy after just a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this a little bit stiffer material, but just to make sure that I get a very translucent wing. I want a wing that's just staring the fly, making room, oops, for the hackle to work. And actually on the most of the flies I caught, most of the Akroyds I caught my fish on, I didn't have any wing. But this I'm putting on because you do a tube like this, you need the fly to steer too. So what I do here, I'll take one bunch, very careful, not much at all, and I use like a light cinnamon brown one. I put in around about half the diameter of the tubing. You see how the thread wants to come down? I don't want it to come down, I want it to stay on top there for a while. Here we go. So I put this on first, I trim away, and careful. Okay, here we go, the first little wing, and as I do on most flies I add a little sparkle to it. Here I'm super careful and I put on a few strands of angel hair, and I use my favorite color, Nasty Rusty. And as always, it's better to have a few fibers more than you need. You can always take them away afterwards. And I taper these by pulling and cutting, so I get them not even, different length. Okay, first half, and then I take a little bit more and I'm gonna use the longest hair. Maybe I should comment on that, because when you buy stuff like this, maybe I'll open, we have many colors of this, but when you buy stuff like this, people don't think on how to cut them, the actual skins. But what we do is that we cut from the belly where you have the very short hair. Maybe it's easier to see on this. And then we always keep the back on every piece, so there are some long fibers in every pack. I was almost wanted to put that on, but since this is going to be discreet fly, I will not, and I will keep on with this very light cinnamon brown color. Okay, and you can see how this the fibers are quite straight down in the bottom, meaning they will not create so much volume, and they will be very, very translucent. So I'll take this, tie it in, make sure this is like on all flies, the second wing is longer than the first. I want it even a little longer, like that, and I tie it in. Here we go. Make sure it's on the sides too. Okay, and then we do a little bit of glue, and those of you following me here have seen me have new glue that is all over the fly. This is the opposite way. This is an old bottle, and I'll just have to, it's not as fluid, so that's why I use the dubbing needle instead. And to clean a dubbing needle, there are different ways of doing this. You can, when you clean it from super glue, the best way is let it dry, then you take a razor blade and you just, or I have this new thing coming soon, it's not out yet, but this little plier, and you put it on and you just twist it, and because if you dry it now, it's not going to be or try to use a piece of cloth or something to just clean it, it will still have some on there. Okay, here we go. Oh, one little fiber going the other wrong way here. So now I'm going to put on jungle cocks, and I'm so tempted to use what I use for my flies and to use our new fly, not our new jungle cock, but I will not do that because the cut is not right yet. I want to show you this when it's ready, and well, soon. I'm not gonna say a date because you will hate me when it turns out I'm not gonna have it here for next month either. But actually, I would be surprised if I don't. Okay, so jungle cocks on this. I'm going to keep the tradition. I'm going to tie in the jungle cocks dropping down. Meaning I use a very small feather and I form it over my thumbnail to drop down underneath, and this is too big. It's a mistake, I think, to do on these flies is to use a too big jungle cock. It makes them ugly. And you know that I use smaller jungle cocks than most tires because I love these feathers. I want them to be tied in full, so you see all of it. So I'm going to form this like this, and I'm tying it in underneath, dropping down like this. A little too long. And this can be a bit tricky because they want to come up on the upside here. So that's why I pull it before I actually leave it. Looks good. And then I'll do the other one, form it first, and you will see this would like to go the other way. And it's just because the thread, the feather wants to follow the thread. It's a little tricky to clean this, but I think it will work. Form it a little better. Like that. And I tie this in here. Then I'll have to put it a little higher up for it to drop down. Maybe this was dropping down a little bit anyway. There you go. I want it there. And cut it off. What do I have here? I have a sparsely dressed, very translucent fly. I just want to add a little of, does it look good? I think it looks good. I just want to add the front hackle, and like on the smaller ones, I would first put the heron-hackle as a front hackle onto the wing, and then another hackle in the front. Here I've put the heron on like it should be, like a body hackle, but I will do a teal hackle. I haven't prepared this, so meaning that it will take a bit of time maybe for me to find a good feather. Get them bulk like this, it doesn't look much, but there are feathers for tenth of thousands of flies. Okay, looking at this, I will have a little bit, meaning that I'll take a small feather, clean it in the bottom first, and then I strip it one side. Here it was obvious that this side was better, so I cleaned that off. And I tie it in the tip. Creating the little triangle there. Actually had many people saying that this little trick by doing a triangle to tie in is a fairly good trick. Few turns, use the strength of the thread to pull it out. Here I can go on and use our hackle plier because it's a short feather, it's easier for me to hold this, and I tie this in close to the wing, and I will use the full feather. It's easy, I don't need to double this since it's stripped one side. And you can see that one of the advantages here with our plier is that it's so heavy that I can let go of it without the feather will be coming loose. Keep the tension in the thread while you take the plier away, since there are not any weight anymore. Hold the fibers back and tie this in. There you go. It's a bit stiff here, tangling a bit for me. And I put a few turns and cut close. Does it look good? Teal needs, sometimes it's a bit greasy. It needs to be cleaned and like that, so it actually stands all around the fly like that. And I will pick one. I could take a rainbow one, but I'm gonna pick black micro, black micro turbo. And what I'm gonna do now is see if this is okay. It's still okay. I'm gonna put on just a little bit of glue, and now this is not so dangerous, but I put the glue a little bit away there from the fly, and I'm gonna use my thread to move the glue close into the fly, and then I take the turbo, and since I have a little bit of glue there, I'm gonna twist this when I put it on, so I spread the glue. So I take this and I push it down, twist it down, take the thread away, take the fly out of the vise, and I'll cut this. And the good thing with here with the fluorescent fits is that the more I melt this, the more fluorescence I get. The fluorescence does not burn, and I don't know what you say about this. It's the only light we had here, so we'll do it with this big ugly, and I just melt it down a little bit at a time. And if I hold it up like this, I get a nice little hole for my leader. Okay, what have I done here? Okay, look at this. It's a wide fly, very sparsely dressed, much more sparsely than most of my flies are. You can see how very translucent it is. And yeah, it got the jungle cocks from the fish perspective for once. Well, the sparsely dressed fly can be good, and you have some of the humus watercolors in here, but it's also so discreet that you can fish this even on a clear river. And if you look at the proportions, you'll see that it's not bulky, it's quite thin, but it still tapers. The hackles will taper back in a nice little taper. And one of the advantages, it's hard to see on the ready fly, but with the nutria, is how shiny it is. It's super shiny material. So even if you take just a few strands, you get a really nice shine to this. And well, I like it for this kind of flies. I have another one here. Here I used fox, and you can see it looks more like a regular fly. The nutria one is different, and another good thing with nutria is it's very, very strong material. As long as you use a little glue there, that wing will stay and look the same over and over again. So, okay, the Akroyd, and actually I've been wanting and waiting to do this fly. It's one of my absolute favorite flies, and I've taken fish on this fly in so many rivers, both in Norway and in Iceland and in Russia, and also of course here in Sweden where I got my first fish on it. Excellent fly on the Murrum. Okay, so we're done, and thank you very much for watching. I thought I had a pattern pack here somewhere. Sometimes I show. It's disappearing. No, here we go. Of course we do our packs for those interested. We do fly packs. We also do the pattern packs with the materials for those who want to try this. And you have all the super nice quality material in there. Also with some of the nutria that you probably have not tried for summer flies anyway. Okay, thank you again for watching, and next time we'll be back we'll back with something different, and in a month's time I will actually keep on tying a few Akroyds here for my own boxes, and I will do them the way I showed you here. You can also buy the white nutria and you can try that, and you will have a white wing Akroyd. Okay, stay strong and tie on.